Rob Goddard, it is so wonderful to connect with you again. Thank you so much for being here.
Nah, likewise. Good to see you.
Well, I am super excited that you are coming to share your expertise with us here on the French Riviera for our Global Luminary Activation Experience.
Yeah.
It's going to be an amazing 5-day mastermind. And one of the things that everyone is buzzing about is this concept of getting their relationship right with money, particularly for the heart-centered, soul-inspired entrepreneur. You have a lot of experience. You've spent a lot of time around people, particularly healers and coaches, who have this challenge with asking for money, or they have this fear about, creating packages of their services that are priced based on value rather than this continual, trading money for time. So I'm so excited that you're going to be sharing your expertise in this area.
Thank you. I certainly have. I have had a wrong relationship with money previously, and it's taken me 30 years. I wish I'd learned more quickly that really money is just a tool. That's all it is in order to do other stuff. And but my relationship was not good. I had a love of money, which was unhealthy. But in recent years, I've learned that it's just a tool to get good things done. And you are right. We quite often fall into the trap of exchanging time for money. And whilst I understand that, and I've done that myself, I've learned over the years, actually, the better position to be in is the impact of what I do. What is the value of that to that person? And you can only find that out by asking lots of questions. So that's how now I price things, because I'm involved in mentoring and coaching, and I want to understand what the person's pain and problem is, and whether I can help them, because I may not be the right person. If I can help them, what is the value of my input to the problem that they've got? And I used to charge in pounds sterling, because obviously I'm British. I started charging £300 a day, because I'd worked out on an hourly rate. I thought that was quite reasonable.
For a whole day?
For a whole day, yeah. And that I didn't factor in all of the in-between meetings with emails and phone calls and prep time. I didn't even factor in preparation time.
Oh my gosh.
My day rate now is $5,000 a day. So it's taken me 10 years to get there and have the confidence to charge more.
Well, let's take a step back, because you talked about your relationship with money. Now, of course, everyone, has heard your bio, that you've built a very successful multi-million-pound business. You're also have expanded over the years to having the business in Dubai, which is where we got to shoot an episode for our documentary film. So like, people hear, multi-million pounds, they see you as a huge success. No one would ever believe that you had this unhealthy relationship with money that caused you to burn through it. You spent it as quickly as you got it. Where did that come from? Because typically we hear people who grew up in a family, for example, where maybe the caregivers or the parents said, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, or money is the root of all evil, such that they started to believe that having money was bad or asking for money was bad. So where did your relationship with it come in?
I guess I'm a greedy guy, or was a greedy guy, and not very generous. And I went into the world of banking when I was 18. So that kind of cemented my view. My first manager, on day one of my first day of work, said to me, the way to progress in your career is to tread on the heads of other people, to climb the greasy pole of corporate life.
Wow.
Yeah, and John Sykes, which was his name, he's passed away now, but John was completely wrong. But it took me years and years. So that conditioning in banking cemented a view that it was all about money, it was all about career, it was all about striving and getting a competitive edge on everyone else. And there was two big circumstances in my later life, in my middle age, that pulled me up short. So I've been rich and I've been poor a couple of times. I've lost it all twice. Not by design, obviously. So I think when you have circumstances in life, it gets you to press the reset button. And that's what's happened to me. But it happened twice. I didn't learn first time round.
Yeah. Ouch. And so, you know, part of this challenge that I want to help healers and coaches and light workers overcome is this fear about speaking up and asking for what they're worth. So what was the process that you went through to go from 300 pounds a day to 5,000 a day? And what would you say to the person who, you know, I've met incredibly gifted healers. So again, sorry, I'm going to ask you the question again, but let's talk about value, right? So you just said you would ask a person about their pain, the problems that they're dealing with. So as a doctor, for example, I have seen people who have incredible, like, stomach problems. They can't eat this, they can't eat that, and if they do, they get really terrible symptoms, and then they're stuck at home. They can't even go out with friends. Like, so there's a really significant cost emotionally, financially, physically. And I met this hour who has this incredible gift of being able to diagnose, like, what's really going on under the hood, if you will. And she has a gift at helping people regulate their immune system so that they can get back out there, they can eat again, they can be healthy again. And she told me that she was afraid to charge 50 euros for her sessions. And I'm like, what? As a doctor, seeing those patients, knowing that they spend hundreds to go to a medical doctor, then they go to this kind of doctor, and they've tried this nutritionist. They have, by that point, they have spent thousands of dollars or euros and still haven't gotten better. And you're telling me that within a couple of sessions, you can almost cure them, and you are afraid to ask for 50 euros?
Wow. Well, you think what they could have spent in prescription drugs would be a lot more than 50 euros.
Exactly.
So to answer your question, a very special person in my life, a guy called George Swift, and I'm part of his mastermind group, have been for 8 years. He has a great thing about double your prices. He has a whole thing on that. Double your prices, double your prices. Don't let your prejudices, preconceptions keep your pricing down. And I've been doing that with George's advice and encouragement. And my own homespun bit on that is keep doubling them until you start seeing a drop off on the number of clients, then double them once more. And now you've found your optimum price for what you offer. And so, but that takes courage. And so that's what I've been doing, from £300 a day to $5,000 a day. I still ostensibly give the same amount of time. I've learned a little bit over the years as well, but the best one I've had was a guy, I remember mentioning it. There was someone I tried to take on as a client. He went quiet for a few months, and then he rang me on Boxing Day and said, I need your help. And I said, well, it's Boxing Day and we're driving to Switzerland tomorrow.
Which is New Year's for the Americans out there.
Sorry, yeah.
New Year's Day.
December, yeah. So it was around Christmas time, and he said, but I need your input. So I said, look, we're packing up for holiday tomorrow over the new year. My wife won't be very happy, but I'll do it for you. I said, but it's £2,000. And also I need you to send me a copy of the remittance that you sent the money by bank transfer. He did it within 15 minutes.
Wow.
It was an hour's work. So I charged £2,000 sterling for an hour's work. But he didn't quibble about the price, but he needed my input on something. So that's a really extreme example of value versus time. It doesn't actually matter how much time, it's the impact that that person has on what you want to do. So one of the things when you're selling is to find out where they are now and where they want to be, ideally. And if you can help them get there, what is that? Get them to articulate what that value is to them.
Yeah.
Is it worth mentioning the example of Vit, our videographer, the other day in Dubai?
as long as it won't hurt him or anyone else.
No. So we were filming for a documentary, and 2 days worth, and I was sharing my life, really, going through depression and coming out the other side. And so he spent 2 days behind the camera listening to my story unfold. Immediately after we did the filming, he asked if I would possibly consider mentoring him. So I've picked up a new client. I haven't had to do any selling. He's bought from me because he's heard a genuine, authentic story. And I think that's the message I like to get out to people. Be authentic. Just be yourself. Have something of value to share. And you shouldn't need to sell too much. People should buy if you can get out to enough people and be visible.
Yeah, we certainly have to have the visibility and the numbers coming in, because I think for many coaches, they feel like there's still scarcity. Like they have to either undercut the competition, lower their prices so that they can at least get some people in. Whereas I believe that especially with the internet now, you can do sessions over Skype or Zoom or whatever, or even just with WhatsApp. So you don't have to be so limited. But I think what you've just described is critical. That idea about just sharing authentically what you've personally gone through or some of your clients' success stories, not about bragging, but just describing what their transformation was in the context of the right person. When they hear it, they're going to recognize, wow, that's a result I want, and you are clearly qualified to help me get there. Yeah. And so it doesn't ever have to become some high-pressured sales conversation. It's just an offering. Like, this is what here I am, you know?
Yeah. And there is a little tip, as you just said that, there was a little tip coming to my mind for people watching this. Don't charge an hourly rate, charge a monthly retainer, because then you can package in things under a monthly retainer. As soon as you go down the route of hourly rates, then people will make comparable with other jobs and other industries. So never quote an hourly rate. Very rarely, I'd avoid it, but monthly retainer and package in and put some things in that may be of added value, high added value to them, but won't cost you a lot.
Yes. You know, I felt the same way because, like you, I might early on just say, okay, this is my fee for seeing me, because as a doctor, kind of, we've been brought up like that. But there is all the behind the scenes stuff I do. And because I do media advising work, sometimes I would get a client calling me on a weekend saying, oh my God, I'm about to go on CNN. Can you help me? And of course, I'm not going to say, oh, well, you haven't paid me. So I spend time going through things. And I've done some coaching with someone on a weekend before they went on TV, where they ended up making about $50,000 US based on that appearance. So what came back to me was, okay, there's an incredible value. Now, I want to talk to you about something else that I know you know very well, and that is leverage. Because if you're talking about the value you can bring to someone, sometimes that person isn't in a position to leverage your insight or advice so that they can actually have that return. So for example, I may have a coach come to me and say, oh my gosh, you know, your personal branding academy costs nearly $20,000, but there's another branding expert that only charges $10,000. And I can say, well, first of all, I have 20 years of experience at the highest level with the global media. But be that as it is, if you look at our results side by side, yes, somebody else may be able to help you get a slick website and, maybe, polish up what you're doing. But what's going to be the return on that? So I wouldn't even engage with a client unless I knew I was going to be able to help them make their money back within the first several months, if not year, depending on how long the engagement is, knowing that they're going to make that money back and probably 10 to 100 times as much. But that comes with experience. And I also recognize that some people can't leverage it. Even if they got my time and my attention, if they're not ready to implement it in such a way that they're getting the visibility or that they can actually deliver their services, then paying me that money isn't even going to work for them.
Well, what you've raised is a really interesting point on pricing, because I get it all the time. someone else is cheaper down the road. So I have three possible responses to that objection. Usually, and I say, well, how much is someone else offering? And so maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 80% cheaper than me. And I say, well, you're welcome to go to them, but that sounds cheap, and buy cheap, buy twice. But the golden one that I give them is that, well, one thing you're not getting by going down the road is me. And you're not, with that guy with the £2,000 with what was an hour's work, I said to him, you're not paying for my time this afternoon, you're paying for the last 40 years.
Exactly.
That's what you're paying for. And if you think about it, us as individuals, we've got a huge amount of experience and knowledge. And that is what they're buying. They're not buying an hour of our time or a day of our time a month. They're buying the experience and the knowledge that we've built up over many, many years. And that comes at a price. It just needs the confidence to keep doubling your prices.
Yeah. And also we're bringing to it a sense of compassion and a sense of, true commitment to stand with our clients through thick and thin to get them to the results that they really, really want. It's not just some transaction.
Yeah. And the other aspect, if you're not charging proper value, whatever that means to individuals, you may not have enough cash in the bank account, which means it limits the size of your business. So you can't get your message out sufficiently. You may have something of real value that you can't get to the outside world sufficiently because the business isn't generating enough cash to do that.
Yeah. And then,
that's a real, that's not a good place.
No, because think of how many thousands of people, or maybe more, are suffering. You happen to have a gift or an insight that isn't very common in the marketplace. You have some unique way of either giving that advice or coaching or healing. And those people are suffering because you're bogged down in your business without making enough money to do the things to grow and get the visibility. Now, one of the other things that you're going to be sharing with us at GLAY, which I think is probably most people are like not going to be ready for it, but it's a perspective that I learned the hard way. And that is, how do you actually set up your business with your exit strategy in mind? So for most of us as healers and coaches, we love what we do. And when we finally, take that step to be in business, we think, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, or I'm going to do this for the next 20 years, or whatever that number is. And we just get single focused on doing it. Now, in my case, I was young. I was in my 30s and I had built my first multi-million-dollar business. I was young. I was thinking, oh, this is what I'll do for the next 20 years, like every other doctor, until I started to get bored. And then it was like I had all these employees, people with children and mortgages who were dependent on me. And I realized, oh my God, I can't keep doing this. And yet, if I don't, look at all these people I would let down. And then I happened to meet Deepak Chopra and was being mentored by him. And he explained, he was like, oh, yeah, been there, done that, setting it up with a different infrastructure. So it's not dependent on the brand. Because in my case, even when I brought in other people, everybody wanted me. So it wasn't even set up in such a way that I could exit the business if I wanted to. So talk to me a little bit about, I think some of our light workers might be early in the stages of building their business. So the idea of selling a business might be just completely out of their imagination. But tell me a little bit about it.
Okay. So people often ask, when is the best time to think about an exit strategy? And I say, before you set it up, ideally, which is obviously too late for most of us. But why not? And an exit doesn't mean selling necessarily.
Okay.
It could just mean you exit from the day-to-day grind of You've got other people, you've built a team around you, and they are maintaining that business or even growing it if you've got a senior team. So I've got 4 businesses. I'm about to start a 5th in Albania. And I haven't got more than 24 hours in the day, like everyone listening to it and watching this. So I build teams around me over a period of a few years, and I let go to them. So you can employ people and still be a control freak.
Right.
So you've got to employ people who are better than you, or bring them in to your team, that they're better than you. And then the responsibility as the owner is then to let go gradually to those trusted people. And then what you find is your diary opens up. My diary's opened up. I need to find things to do to fill it. But I have 4 businesses that I'm chairman of. So you can do it. It does take time and it takes self-control, but it's a wonderful place. You know some of it, Andrea. I'm in such a lovely period of time where I've neglected my families over the time. I've got 6 children now, 4 businesses, 6 children. They've taken a back seat over the years, a number of them, because I've been working. And so I'm able now to give back time, the most precious commodity all of us have, with my kids.
Yeah.
So that, for me, that's the reward and the value of letting go and building teams around me. So that would be my advice, is start now. Wherever you are in your business growth, start thinking about who you can bring in. Doesn't have to be employees, could be contractors. So you just pay as you go, and as the business grows, then you use the contractor more. But there's a book called The Beer Mat Entrepreneur. It's on Amazon, The Beer Mat Entrepreneur. I used it. You have the entrepreneur. A beer mat is something that you put your beer glass on, or your wine glass.
A coaster.
A coaster, that's it. Yeah, sorry. Thank you for the translation. The idea being, in that coaster or that beer mat, you as the entrepreneur at the center of it when you first start the business. You have to be, because it's your brand and you are the heart of it and people want to meet you. The 4 corners of that coaster, because it's a square, you have someone that's involved in finance. The first thing to outsource is finance. So you want to get someone part-time to just deal with the numbers and the processing of invoices. Someone on the marketing front, so outsource marketing, or get someone involved within your business that can do that perhaps on a part-time basis. So finance, marketing, operations, someone that can run the day-to-day. And then the 4th corner is sales. If you're not confident about selling, get someone who is. Yeah. And there are some people will do it on commission only, which is fantastic for your business. And they'll share the risk. So those are the 4 pillars of growing a business. Not quite often, if it's just you as a person that has a business, I would say it's not really a business, because it's not sustainable without you. It's a job. Yeah. That's what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what makes you happy. If that's what you want to do, you don't need to change. But if you want to create a business, then the change or the suggestions I've just made need to come in. And it's a wonderful position. I've exited 4 businesses and I still own all of them, but I'm trying to find things to do to fill my time, which has then led me down the altruistic path. Which is beautiful. Now I can make a difference in other people's lives through giving time and charitable donations and all of that, which you're familiar with. Exactly, which is now the 2nd edition of your book coming out, and now you're doing public speaking around your experience with depression and business burnout. So you're now sharing your intense wisdom and knowledge to help other people. So it is a beautiful sweet spot that you're in. And lovely. I think you're absolutely right. We have to make this shift. And what I've seen personally is that when we don't, when we're still trading, time for money, when we're still bogged down by our business, burnout is one of the consequences of that. And part of the thing that goes with burnout is resentment. And that feeling of just that bogged down feeling of resentment, especially when you're not charging what you're worth, and then you get these demanding clients and you're starting to feel like, so anyway, we could go on and on and on. So, and I'm sure we will. We can do it in the south of France, though, in a week or so's time. Exactly. So for those of you that are coming to our Global Luminary Activation Experience, also known as GLAY, Rob will be presenting. He will also be sharing information about his new book and his philanthropic work and helping men in particular avoid the perils of suicide. So Rob, thank you again so much. I am so grateful that you have been so generous with your time and your wisdom to help my tribe
my soul inspired peeps so that they can, you know, level up, level up, level up.
Absolutely my pleasure, Andrea. Look forward to seeing some of you there later this month.
See you.